Jackson Radio Show.
Do you have any advice for a young girl moving to Hollywood?
I'll get lively with us. Harvey Weinstein invites you to a private party in the Four Seasons stuff.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. That was Courtney Love, and she's asked, what advice would you give to young women coming to Hollywood? And she says, I don't know if I could say that without being libel, meaning, she could get sued for libel. She really meant slander, but that's okay. And then she finally says, well, if Harvey Weinstein invites you to the Four Seasons for an after party or private party or whatever, don't go. Oh, my goodness. Advice for a lot of people. Who do you look out for in Hollywood? It's funny, as we research this topic of Harvey Weinstein and more things start to hit the surface, you start to get an understanding of how Hollywood works. And I told you guys before, I said, this story's huge. I told you the NFL story's huge. I told you Harvey Weinstein's huge, and I'm going to remind you of that because I want you to understand. It's like I have a couple of proteges. We're training some folks. One of them's name is Miranda, and I include her on a lot of the things that we do because I want her to understand my way of thinking. And it's the same thing I do with the radio audience. Look, I'm not trying to say I'm some sage. I really don't feel that way. People just tell me, Kevin, I would never think of what you thought about. And so I figure, okay, if you hear that enough, it must be something. But you don't know. I mean, how do I know? I figure everybody thinks like me. But here's the thing. So I'm looking at these subjects and I'm going, these are deeper. For example, and I'm not going to rehash it too much, but I got to remind you guys, the NFL thing wasn't about them taking a knee. That's a lie. We know that. We've been talking about that for ages. It's about the political correctness of one of the things that we haven't even thought of as capitalism because we've never had to. See, the NFL is a meritocracy. You work hard, you get to the NFL. That's the pinnacle of success for a young athlete that wants to play football. And here are 70% of young black men are dominating a business. They're dominating the business of a sport. And they can't even see it that way. Picture it this way, if you want to understand where I'm going with it. Imagine if Silicon Valley were 70% black. Does that help you put it in perspective? Now, if Silicon Valley was 70% black, what do you think would ultimately happen? Do you think Sergey Brin would be running YouTube? Or Google? Do you think Zuckerberg would be in charge of Facebook if Silicon Valley was 70% black? No, Kevin Jackson would be running it. One of my sons would be running it. I've got 2 sons in IT. 3 actually. My oldest 3 sons are all very brilliant in IT. They would be running that stuff. So we wouldn't be anomalies. So imagine if we put the focus, black folks, if black athletes put the focus they do in sports into IT, Silicon Valley, or some other thing. How would we be? What would we be? I tell people all the time, these young blacks are great marketers. They can sell sagging pants and clothes I would never wear. Hairstyles I would never wear. Speech I would rarely use. And I could go on. But people are just, they worldwide. Go to Japan. You see the equivalent of these young black thugs with Japanese looking faces. That's what you see. Same thing in China. I'm not telling you we're exporting the best of America, but we're exporting something. That culture is something these kids they gravitate to all over the world. So maybe we're really good at marketing. So imagine if we control, I'm talking about black folks. If black folks control Madison Avenue, not that I tell you I'd want it. I never want my kids sagging and wearing the stuff, but I'm just saying. If you want to put your mind to something, put it to something. So I want you to imagine, take whatever company you want and make it 70% black. Even if it was a white-owned organization, make it 70% black. And ask yourself, who would be complaining? Do you need the EEOC to step in with the NFL? I don't think so, right? You don't need the Department of Labor to get involved. If Kaepernick wants to take a knee and he gets fired, there shouldn't be a black person on the planet that gets upset. They're like, man, we dominate over there. Get another black dude. Who's going to replace Kaepernick? So it ain't going to be a white dude named Kaepernick. You know what I'm saying? It's probably going to be some young black stud who's, from the deep, dark recesses of somewhere in the South where black people are oppressed, and he's going to be a stud, and he's going to enter the league, and you're going to forget Kaepernick existed. That's what happens. So can we put it in perspective what exactly we've accomplished with the NFL? Transfer that to some other business and ask yourself, what would we be saying if black people dominated social media? What would Jesse Jackson say if 70% of the people, or let's use Reverend Sharpton, who called Jerry Jones a plantation owner? What would Al Sharpton say if Google had 70% black folks working at their company? Would he say Sergey Brin's a plantation owner? He wants his employees to show up and be productive, not worry about all this social justice stuff. He would say nothing. It would be some of the most well-paid, smartest people on the planet if they work for that organization. So see, that's why I tell you, when you really stop and step back and look at this stuff and you go, wait a minute, Kevin Jackson's pretty smart. But I didn't play that clip of Courtney Love to talk about that. I talk about how smart I am. I played it to talk about Harvey Weinstein and why I told you guys this story's huge. The reason why this story's huge is because it's exposing what we already know. That's why, forget Donald Trump being president. That's the big deal. What, a rich white guy becomes president? What's so big about that? Well, Kevin, he's not a politician. Really? So that surprises you. Inasmuch as Barack Obama, who had very little experience, he was a community organizer, failed at that, and he's president. And that surprises me, a black man. What should surprise you is his credentials. How he did it, not that he did it. Black people were going to be president. Why they chose that clown, I don't know. Donald Trump being president has practically zero impact on me. Kevin, it's a rich white guy, billionaire, became president. Who wouldn't believe that's possible? That's not the story. The story is around the fact that Donald Trump is, forget he's bucking the system. Donald Trump, in terms of what he accomplished and how he accomplished it, and what is the underlying meaning of his being elected, what did he do upsetting all of these various systems and things like that? That's the story. It isn't that a rich white guy became president. It's Donald Trump throwing a monkey wrench into a system that barely would allow a rich white Republican man to become president. Think about that. That's supposed to be the shoo-in. You're a rich white Republican. I'm talking about billionaire, can finance your own campaign and do. How are you supposed to lose? But where we were talking about, I don't know, he may not have a chance. And here he is. He's in there. How disruptive was that to the system? And what have been the further disruptions to the system? That's the focus. Why is it that his own people, Republicans, are fighting against Donald Trump right now? Why? How can that even be possible? How do we have control of the House, the Senate, and the judiciary, and Donald Trump is fighting harder than any president? Barack Obama walked stuff through, and he had none of it. I mean, he lost everything. How do you do that? Those are the stories. Those are the things we should be focused on. The idea that these folks are going after you, and Donald Trump represents you. He represents somebody who said, to heck with it. I don't care what y'all think. I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to do it. And he did it so completely different. There's an establishment way to do stuff everywhere along the way. Oh, he screwed up here. He's messed up here. The story is the story underneath Donald Trump. Donald Trump was supposed to be a shoo-in for president. So was Hillary Clinton. That's what's cool about that. They both were supposed to win. But then we figured out who was supposed to trump the other one, right? Women's rights were supposed to trump because we already had the black guy. We had competence versus incompetence. We had a crook versus a legitimate businessman who understood the crooked nature of business. I could go on. So many subtext and plots going on, and none of them had to do with the fact that a very wealthy white Republican man couldn't get elected. Heck, has anybody looked at all the people previous to that? Take out Republican, and guess what? They were all rich white men. So you threw Republican in the middle of it, and everybody, I don't know. But I want to talk about Donald Trump and the impact going forward and what it meant to what this Harvey Weinstein thing meant. And I want to talk about it in the context of how people view courage.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.